Lori here. I'm back to do another recommendation video for you. This is part 2 of the spooky and eerie creepy read books that I did last week. This is part 2. I got these prompts from a couple of the reading groups that I'm in, so let's get into it. The first prompt is a eerie and creepy book that is not set in Europe or USA. Had a little bit of a hard time choosing this one, but I did pick Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Here is a photo. Of Japanese mythology. I blame Teen Wolf, but when I started reading this book, it really did remind me of what I imagine watching an anime would be like. And I just love the mythology. I'm actually in the middle of rereading it. It might actually be my reread for the month of November because I felt a little bit behind on it and got a little bit distracted. But I do really want to keep reading the series. I remember really enjoying it. It has a couple of my favorite tropes, but the Japanese mythology definitely to me is eerie and creepy because it reminds me of Teen Wolf, and Teen Wolf season 3 is definitely my favorite. But that is why that book is on this list. So the next book we are going to chat about is a book that has monsters that are not vampires or werewolves. I'm going to go hunt for it and I'll report back. Bye, friends. A hard prompt, but I did come up with a recent read that I picked up, and I'm going to talk about small town monsters. So here is a photo. Demon and possessions and cults. So it's sort of like a unique twist. It's a very, very quick read. I'll say very, very quick. It was like horror light. I was able to get through it. I'm not the biggest fan of horror books, but I did like it. It definitely felt very, very culty to me, and I like the main character a lot. I thought it was very, very fun. It also felt a little bit insta-lovey to me at points, but I thought the fast-paced adventure and eerie and creepy elements were super fun. Other than the insta-lovey, I did really like it. I've read stuff by this author in the past, and this was her first foray into like light horror. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I read it in early fall, so if you're looking for kind of a demony read, if you like Buffy, I think you'd like this one. And then the next prompt is read a book without romance. I'm going to try to pick not the normal one. The normal one that everyone always says is the Dark Duet series by Victoria Schwab. But I'm going to try to find an eerie and creepy book that doesn't have a romance, and I will report back. So the next prompt was a book that didn't have a romance. I've actually read this book quite a while ago, and I never finished reading the series, but it's kind of like a loosely based Sherlock Holmes retelling, and it's Jacoby by William Ritter. Sherlock Holmes. It had like a murder case. It was super fun. There was like, it was potentially paranormal, which I really did like. I actually really need to see if I could get like the other books in the series because I remember really liking it, and I've been craving some more like murder mysteries, but I liked that one, and I looked it up. It said it didn't have a romance, so if you're looking for something other than the Savage Song and a little bit more like detective-y, now looking back on it, it reminds me a little bit more of like the Harry Dresden series. I really did like the series when I started, and I just never got around to finishing it. But that's another lesser known recommendation for you. But the more obvious one is obviously the Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. But that one is one I just wanted to mention because it doesn't get nearly enough love and attention. A prompt for a translated book, and I will be honest, I don't read a lot of translated books. I'll be super honest, so I don't really have a recommendation for this. Unfortunately, the only translated book that is on my immediate TBR is more fantastical, and that is the Witcher series because it is a translated novel, but there's nothing else that like is translated and spooky and creepy that I've even really heard of. So sorry, the person that recommended that. I can't think of anything. There are some lists, but I don't want to recommend something unless I've read it, and I haven't read any of those books that I found. So sorry about that. But the next prompt is a book with a twist. I have read so many books with twists, but the one that stood out to me the most recently was I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick, and here is a photo. Last summer, and I'll give you guys a more modern one at the very, very end as like a bonus one. But this book follows a girl named Anna, and she winds up going back, I think she goes back to Long Island to be a nanny. And when she gets to this town, she goes to this new town. She winds up, everyone comes up to her and says, hey, you look a lot like Zoe Spanos. And it's like a past and present story. So you get her when she first goes to Long Island, and then you get her in the future after she's in jail for killing Zoe Spanos. It's a very interesting read. I did not see the twist coming at the end. I will say in that story, I was more invested in the present storyline because I knew I knew where we were going to go than the past storyline, but they were both really, really compelling. And the twist was one that I did not see coming at all, so I would definitely recommend that one. And one that came out relatively recently that I will also chat about is A Dark and Shallow Lie. Here is a photo of that one. Potential paranormal story, but this takes place in the bayous of Louisiana, and there is some mystical things on the horizon. The twist at the end of this story I did definitely not see coming. I was really surprised. I like that there was a nice balance between the paranormal elements, but also like the not like it could also not be paranormal. But I did really like the characters. I thought it was an interesting storyline. It was one that captured me. The twist was shocking, and it was a perfect end of summer, early fall read because it definitely got eerie and creepy towards the end, and I really, really liked it. So the next prompt that we are going to chat about in this video is a book with leaves on the cover. I'm going to have to go hunt in my collection and see what I can find. I'm back from a little bit of a break, but still on with the video. The next prompt is find a book with leaves on the cover, and some of these are a little bit harder to find than I thought. I have a lot of books with leaves on the cover that I haven't read yet, but I'm going to focus on one that I've recently read. I can't remember if I talked about this in my last video, but I am going to talk about Dresden Blood by Kendra Blake. Haunted house story with a male lead, a male ghost hunter, and a ghost going for vengeance. It was really good. I like this story quite a bit. I flew through it. It was eerie and creepy, and it was a haunted house. It was a male-led character. There was an unexpected romance that I didn't necessarily see coming. I like that it sort of felt like it was older. It sort of felt like, like a 1940s novel. Definitely wasn't, but the way Kendra Blake wrote it had a very, very old-timey feel to it. So I like that a lot. I like the characters a lot. I want to get to Girl of Nightmare soon, but I was captivated from page 1, and that's why I'm recommending it. I know it came out a while ago, but it was really good. It had elements of both ghost and haunted house. Not too horror-y, which is something that I always am fearful of because I don't love horror, but this book was one that I really did like. And so many books for books about witches because I love books about witches. My secret issue is that I never read them. I collect them. I'm fascinated by these stories. I hoard them all for the fall, and I can't read them all. But one series that I still have loved and think is one of the better witchcraft stories that I have read, just because it was really unique and different, was Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This is a different type of witchcraft, and there is like an element that has them all working together, but it was just a really, really fast-paced story. I think I actually preferred Wind Witch over Truth Witch. I still have to read Blood Witch, which I really, 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 really want to get to. I might actually make that one of my November reads because it's pretty long and I want to keep reading a bunch of series and wrap up a couple of series in this month. But I like this book. At the heart of the story was a relationship between two best friends. There was diverse magic system. There was adventuring. It was great. I read this so long ago. I really need to reread Truth Witch and Wind Witch and then keep going because I feel like if I go into Blood Witch, I'm going to be super confused. But that was the first witch series I read that really like captured me from page 1. So if you're looking for an older series that just finished, I would definitely check out that one. What we're going to talk about is a book with blood on the cover. I have a lot of these, again, on my TBR, but I did find one that I did read, and I just want to mention it again. It's a much older book, but it's Frost Blood by Ellie Blake. Here's a picture. Series that I would recommend you read towards the winter because it does have a lot of winter elements to it. It's very, very elemental magic-y. If you like, Avatar The Last Airbender, I would definitely recommend you pick this up. There are a lot more blood covers. Like there's Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. There's a lot of books that have blood on the cover. There's Dresden Blood, which I just mentioned in a previous clip, but this is a much older one that does have blood on the cover. More fantastical, probably more wintry. It's probably a book I would love to maybe reread in the winter because I remember the setting was very, very wintry and it was like winter magic. But I just wanted to mention it because that's what the prompt is. The next prompt that we are going to chat about is a book that features an unstable character. So let's go find one. Book or topic we're going to talk about is a book with an unstable main character. This is another book that I read relatively recently, and it's Burden Falls by Kat Ellis. Here's a photo. Work for blood on the cover. But this is a relatively recent thriller that I read. It was really, really short, but it followed this main character, and people start getting murdered around her. And she starts to think something is wrong. She starts to think it's a paranormal element, and it's sort of leading you in that direction. It's definitely a serial killer story. I felt like the deaths in the story were very, very predictable, but the twist at the end was sort of somewhat surprising, and I liked it. I liked the elements of the story. I liked how the characters were forced to interact. I liked the mystery elements that was at the foundation of the story. It really did remind me of what I would imagine watching Riverdale would be like, because that was kind of the blurb. It's like Riverdale meets Nancy Drew. And I really liked the book. I thought it was a quick read. It was a fast read. I want to read more by Kat Ellis in the future. But it was an enjoyable read, and definitely you really didn't know where the character stood, and you as the reader didn't know what was true or false. So I thought that was a really interesting reading experience. What is a book that has the word witch in the title? I have read a lot of books with witches in the titles, but one that I haven't talked about a lot is Akata Witch by Nydia Okorafor. I think I'm saying that right, but here's a photo. Story. It's not set in New York and like the United States. It's not even set in Europe. I think it's set in like Africa, I think. But it's just another like traditional story about witchcraft. It reminded me a little bit of like the way that Harry Potter was structured, because there was a school. It was very much like a different type of magic system than I've ever really read before, but it also had bigger problems that was trying to like solve things. I really did like it. I liked it. I thought the story was great. I thought it was a unique read. I have the second one. I haven't got around to reading it yet, but it was a book that definitely made me think, and I thought it was a very, very unique read and one that I really liked. That was the first thing I've ever read by that author, and it was really, really fun. I liked the trio of characters that we got to meet. The environment was super important as well and super fun, but there was definitely like a learning aspect to it, but then like a bigger plot point, and hopefully I'll get to book 2 soon. Prompt that I was given is given like an urban myth, and I would say more like an urban story, or more like a retelling of some sort. I think I have another retelling later on my list as well, but this one was the House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. I really like this story. This was a perfect like late fall or late summer, early fall read. But it basically was a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses myth. Very eerie, very, very creepy, really like had a Regency element to it. It was eerie. It was very, very eerie with a potential paranormal element. I love books that sort of tease that, but don't go all the way. I love Erin A. Craig's writing. Her newest book is also on my current TBR. But this one was really good. It was eerie and creepy, but not horror. I tend to struggle a little bit with horror, which you'll see in my next wrap up. But this book was very, very good. Eerie, creepy, a lot of characters, and it just was a really, really engaging read. I read it pretty quickly. To talk about, or the prompt that I was given, was read a book with ghosts. The only ghost series other than Dresden Blood that pops into my head is City of Ghosts by V.E. Schwab. Here's a photo. Middle grade series, and every book is set in like a different setting. You have Edinburgh, Paris, and then I think you have New Orleans. You follow this girl named Cassidy Blake. Her and her parents are working on like about like a supernatural ghost hunting TV show. Little do they know, her best friend is actually a ghost and she can see ghosts, and every book involves a case. I loved it. It was such a quick read. They're really, really fun and really, really engaging, really, really eerie and creepy. I think the series is done. I hope in the future we may get more installments because I loved Cassidy and Jacob as a friendship duo, but I just as loved how the stories got progressively darker and darker. Again, a perfect read for middle grade, but even a great read for adults. And so, someone who's sort of a scaredy cat, I really did like this series, and I love V.E. Schwab's writing style. So if you're looking for not a scary ghost story, but kind of like an eerie and creepy one, sort of like Anna Dresden Blood, definitely check this one out. It is one that has dark or darkness in the title. There are a lot of books, but the one that always struck me, and I remember getting this at BEA and being so excited, and I actually was able to complete the series, which is very, very rare for me, was Three Dark Crowns by Ken Blake. Under a rock and don't know. This follows three triplets as they both fight for the crown. There is elemental magic. There's different magic types that all these sisters have. Dark, treachery, lies, betrayal. But at the very, very heart of this story is sisterhood and relationships. And I loved all the sisters. I thought the series was so great. And it definitely ended in a way I wasn't predicting, but the first book is very much adversarial relationships for the sisters, and as you go on, it kind of changes pretty dramatically. But I love the whole series. I thought it was great. But definitely check out Three Dark Crowns if you've not, if you're a fan of different types of magic, but also if you're a big fan of sister relationships, I would definitely check out this one. And the last book I'm going to chat about is a fairy tale retelling or another urban myth story. And I'm going to talk about Winterwood Wicked Deep by Shara Indra. It has a really, really wild twist that I totally did not see coming. But you basically follow this small town where every year these three spirits of the witches from the past take over the girls in the town. And when a young man comes to town, it kind of shakes everything up, and the witches come out to play. It was a really quick, fast-paced read. I remember reading this on my way down to Virginia with my cousin, and I devoured this book. Like, I had to know what happened. I was astonished by like the twist and the turns towards the end. Was not what I was expecting, but it was good. I also then later read Winterwood, also by Shara Indra, which I also did like. I think I liked Wicked Deep a little bit more, and I hear she's coming out with an adult novel soon, which I will definitely be checking out. Her stories are always like a little bit more unique and a little bit more different, but I love them. So let me know in the comments what are some prompts you would like me to do in the future for another video like this, and I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye, friends.